Good morning, everyone. It's so fabulous to see this many Smart Start leaders together to focus on making more connections in the community for sustainability and hopefully making more connections within and across our Smart Start network. I was thrilled when Diane Umstead, and I do want to take a moment and recognize Diane, if you'll wave your hand. Diane Umstead, who is our Community Development Director and the mastermind in working with LPAC and Master Planner, certainly with other folks helping, but she's the one who marshaled along and made sure this event happened today. So thank you, Diane. So these things don't just magically happen, as we know. So speaking of connections, I was thrilled when Diane told me that our speaker today was going to be Gail Perry. For two reasons. Because I know that Gail has fantastic information that she's going to be sharing with us and inspiring us, and also because we have a childhood connection. We were neighbors in Coleraine in Bertie County, and she would come and her and my sister climbed this huge oak tree in our front yard. And this oak tree was, they would sit up in the branches, and I don't know if you remember this, on these limbs, and underneath you could watch people. There weren't that many, it was a small town, but occasionally people would walk down the sidewalk underneath the tree. So usually oblivious that there was anyone up in the tree, two girls up in the tree. So they enjoyed that time up high to reflect and to, be quiet and talk quietly together and to have a different view of their world. And I don't know how recently you've climbed a tree, but it's obvious to me that you have continued to make opportunities to take time to take that higher view. One thing that I learned this morning, another connection, is that Gail has a couple of Smart Start connections. She lived in Surrey County when we were offering the second round of Smart Start grants. And she was commissioned by the folks in the community to help them in 1 week put the grant together. And they got it. She said, by golly, we got that money. And then she helped them pull together the partnership in Surrey County. Yes, right. So several connections. Gail is an international fundraising consultant, a trend spotter, speaker, trainer, and a thought leader. She has worked for over 25 years training thousands of nonprofit leaders to boost their fundraising skills and to inspire them to make the changes in the world that they envision. She's written a book called Fired Up Fundraising, Turn Board Passion into Action. And that book has been called the Gold Standard Guide to Building Successful Fundraising Boards. She launched her fundraising career at Duke University and then moved on to direct the fundraising program at the Keenan Flagler School of Business at UNC Chapel Hill. Please join me in welcoming Gail Perry. Thank you. Thank you.
My friends, you can tell my style is somewhat informal, and I hope you will be informal. I have some very interesting thoughts I'm going to challenge you with today. And let's see, I won't pull this over here. This is out of the way. Just to give you an idea of what I want to do today. And this is, by the way, your workshop, so you can take it a completely different direction. But I want to work with you a little bit on some mindset changes that I think we all need to make if we're going to be really effective in the world. And this is a different approach. This is not like Nonprofit Board Development 101, if anybody's been to the Blue Cross Blue Shield trainings down there, which is great stuff, don't get me wrong, but this is a very different approach. This is a motivational approach. How do we motivate right? This is the psychological approach. So some people accuse me of being manipulative, but I call myself this is leadership. Because leadership is getting other people to do what you need them to do, isn't it? Right? And I also think that if we come at people really straight on, what do you tend to do if somebody's coming right at you straight on? You back up and you put your roadblocks up. So the smart activist, community organizer, fundraiser doesn't come right at people. We sidle around to the side, and I'm going to show you some skills for how to do that. Get people sitting on your team right next to you, helping you solve this problem together. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you could think about all the people that you're hoping to raise money from around your county and your area, that you could imagine that they were sitting next to you, helping you solve this problem rather than listening to a presentation. So, but Diane told me I couldn't talk too much about fundraising today, but we can slip it in a little bit because that's really one of my favorite topics. But what I want to do is to help you get your boards to the point where they are active, on fire, informed, and ready to go. Don't you think you could change the world if you could get your boards there? Right. That's my theory. And I've watched Smart Start with great love in my heart for y'all. And by the way, where are the board chairs? Board chairs? Raise your hand. Bless you. There's a special price in heaven for y'all. Okay? Executive directors. Raise your hand. Yay. Now, did they get an equal price or a higher price? I don't know, but there's a I just want to just tell y'all that you're doing such amazing, important work, and you know it. You know it, and you don't get thanked that much. And so I'm thanking you at the beginning. I'm going to thank you a lot during the day, okay? So, questions, thoughts? Is this okay? Agenda okay with you? It's okay? Sound interesting? This is me. You've already heard about me. But if anybody's tweeting, I love to tweet, and I've got carry on Twitter all the time. And so my Twitter handle is down there at the bottom, Gail Perry NC. And my website is firedupfundraising.com, and there's lots and lots and lots of there are little articles on my blog on various topics. So you can go into my blog and you can do a search, board meetings, recruiting new board members, year-end appeal letters, fundraising events. You can Google that and you can pull out an article too that will give you some quick tips. So, is this your board? We're going to turn our boards from board, B-O-R-E-D, to blazing. Anybody know these people in the picture? That's me in a younger life over there on the right. There's Nina Schlossberg and Rachel Hunt, Governor Hunt's daughter from Charlotte. We are on the board of Lillian's List, which is a PAC, and we were all fired up and ready to go. Now, I want to ask you a question before we get more into my ideas. Y'all here, in this room, I would like for you to turn to the person next to you and share what your biggest challenge is as a Smart Start leader. Your own personal biggest challenge is as a Smart Start leader. Because I would like to know. It's not a report card or anything, but so turn to the person next to you just a second. What's your biggest challenge as a nonprofit Smart Start leader? Let me hear some biggest challenges. Anybody want to be back of the room? Biggest challenge? Money. Somebody else? Time. Bingo. Somebody else? The public still doesn't understand who you are after all these years.
The importance of how young people start to learn.
The importance of how young people start to learn. What age? Boy, we're seeing more and more and more research data about getting them as early as 2, aren't we? Or even before that. The brain development, right? Y'all know more about that than I do. Somebody else, what's your biggest challenge as a Smart Start leader?
Capacity.
Capacity? What do you mean by capacity?
Maintaining it.
I'm sorry?
Maintaining capacity with all of the funding cuts and...
Maintaining capacity with so many funding cuts, all right? All right, I got one more question I want you to discuss, and that is, this is more specific. What do you think your partnership's biggest challenge is right now, in the coming year? when you're having your board meetings or whatever you're doing, what's your biggest challenge? It can be a small challenge, it can be a big challenge. I'm guessing I know what it is, but I want y'all to talk about it, okay? Biggest challenge for your Smart Start, your partnership. Biggest challenge, who's got one to share? This table in the middle, biggest challenge.
Public awareness,
Public awareness.
and we could talk more about challenges in a couple of weeks.
Okay, public awareness, and we can talk more about challenges. How about this table in the back there?
Mobilizing our potential.
Mobilizing your potential. Cool. Excellent. How about over this table? Biggest challenge.
Streamlining. We're going down to go up.
You're going down to go up, so you're reorganizing? Okay, reorganization, okay. How about this table? Biggest challenge.
We talked about how the community isn't aware of every products that we offer, so we refer people to.
Community awareness again. Huh.
And part of that is also tied to financing. If they don't know who you are and what you do, they don't even
If they don't know who you are and what you do, how are you going to get the money? Bingo. In fact, somebody said that if you're not at the table when the community resources are being divided up, you're probably on the menu. I never forgot that one. I never forgot that. Means we got to get out of the office and network, right? Over at this table over here, what's your biggest challenge?
Ours is probably going to be prioritizing and focusing, becoming that niche agency.
Okay, prioritizing and focusing your role in the community. Okay, well, I want to. I'm going to be provocative, and I may send some incendiary bombs your way, and I'll smile, like a good fundraiser or a good consultant. But I would ask you to look at your board meeting agendas and see if your biggest challenges are really getting adequate time. But I have this theory about nonprofit boards that we go in, that there could be the biggest elephant in the room in the whole world, but it's not on the agenda, and everybody works real hard and they discuss real thoughtfully, and then they walk out of the room and the biggest elephant would never even been talked about. So I'm guessing that the environment that Smart Start partnerships are working in is changing rapidly, particularly funding environment, right? And I'm guessing that y'all are facing terrible, terrific, and even greater pressures than ever to develop some fundraising capacity, wouldn't you say? Is that true? And fundraising capacity is inexorably tied to visibility. Okay, so I just want to get on the table that we all agree that fundraising really is something really important to talk about today. Is that okay? Do I have your permission? Okay, all right, good. Okay, so thank you for this feedback. Now, I want to share with you, if you are going to be a spark plug in your community, and I think we got a few spark plugs in here, that I have found that people who run nonprofits sometimes hold themselves way too small, and that they go, oh, that's the board, I think, and I think that I would encourage you to be cheerleaders whenever possible. I work with Loretta, she's the biggest cheerleader I've ever seen. Always positive, always ready to go. And I find that I want to speak a little bit about energy, and it's sort of a fuzzy topic, but studies show that energy states are contagious among small groups of people. Think of your family, think of your office, think of your bridge table or your golf team. Energy states are catching, right? Does anybody have a friend whose energy is like so dead they're like the slimy green kitchen sink garbage disposal? Anybody have a friend? You say, oh, do we have to spend Friday night with them? Please. Does anybody have a friend whose energy is like the warm sunshine? You want to spend Friday night with them? So I would say to you that your energy, you can infect, to use a contagious word, your board and your staff with really a positive outlook just by something subtle that nobody can really measure, except they know that it's catching. And I would challenge you to raise up your energy, because I don't think you can change the world and without really having a sense of urgency and a high power to you. And I also believe to make it fun. people laugh because I say my number one fundraising motto after over 25 years in the business. Guess what my number one fundraising motto is? When in doubt, throw a party. When in doubt, throw a party. And I don't mean a fundraising event either, don't get me wrong. I mean, if you make it fun, what happens if you make things fun? What happens? People come. And they remember it. And they remember it. What else happens? They participate. And they're appreciative. Listen, nobody's having any fun anymore these days. Listen, we got our kids, we got our parents, we're busy, we don't have time, we're sitting in this volunteer board meeting. If you make it worth attending, you will attract more people to you. I absolutely believe that. And so I try to have as much fun as I can when I'm working with you, and when I'm doing a presentation, and when I'm trying to change the world. Because I've seen it happen. That if the committee's on fire, everything is possible. Committee's dead, what? Nothing is possible. And so I want to equip you. I'm going to spend a little section today working with you on your elevator speech. And I think that board members really, really need a better and more and deeper elevator speech. Because what I have found is that they really don't know what to say. And I would also suggest that you may have labored over your 3 main marketing messages, right? Anybody got 3 main marketing messages driving home? And some of your board members are going to forget them. Because it's human nature. If I got in the elevator of, this is a true story that somebody was in an elevator in New York City with David Rockefeller. And he had 30 seconds, And we all joke about it in fundraising. How do you engage this person to be interested? It's not a straight presentation. You make a presentation? So this is a subtle and different look at elevator speeches. And so I want you to do an exercise with me. Everybody's going to get out of their chair. And I'm going to show you how to set up this exercise I call the mingle exercise. And has anybody ever done this with me before? Because I never do a board retreat or a training without starting here, ever. It's that powerful. It only takes about 10 minutes, and you're going to be amazed at the difference. And so this is what we're going to do. I want to ask you, right now, my friends, why do you care about the partnership? I want you to think to yourself, why do you care about the partnership? Your partnership, okay? And you might want to take some notes, because I'm going to ask you. And you're going to have to say it. So why don't you just think a little bit? What would you say if you only had a few minutes, a few seconds? There are tons of things you could choose to say, right? Tons of things. What if you had 4 sentences? What do you think you'd say if you had that lucky moment? And in North Carolina, we don't have that many elevators. I call this the checkout line speech, I had a successful checkout line speech once at the Harris Teeter in Cameron Village in Raleigh. Let me tell you my checkout line story. I was working on these ideas that I'm presenting to you, are all written up in my blog and in my book. They're motivational exercises or approach to board members. And I was working on these new ideas, and I was on fire. Okay, I was so excited. I thought it was sort of a new approach. And I ran into this lady called Betsy Buford, who was the Museum of History Deputy Secretary of Cultural Resources. And you know how there's somebody in your community that you don't know well enough to call up and ask for an appointment, but you want to? So you're like circling around this person, hoping that you might run into them and say, I've been meaning to call you. Can I pick your brain about something or other? Everybody's got people that you don't quite feel comfortable just picking up the phone and asking for an appointment, right? We've all been there. So there I am at Christmas in my jeans, who knows how I looked at Harris Teeter, and I put in my checkout line, I pulled right behind Betsy Buford. And I knew that I wanted to talk to her and I wanted to interview her for my book. And guess what I did? I blathered. But how do you think I blathered? And what do you think her response was? She said, "Oh, wow, yes." She said, "Oh, wow, yes. Let's have coffee. Let's have lunch." And so I'm telling you this, so what you're working on, the words are equally important to how you are being. How you are being is just as powerful as the words. So if you're trying to set your community on fire, which it needs to be lit up, tell me it does, doesn't it? About Smart Start and the difference y'all are making in the lives of these children, you know, this is how you can do it. So this is how you set up the mini exercise. And by the way, I'm going to post this PowerPoint for you on my website, and I'll do it tonight. And the page on my website is called gailperry.com/handouts/smartstart. Okay? And I'll post it. I'll even post it for you in PowerPoint format, not PDF, so you can take it apart if you want to use it. Okay? You can put your own words in there. gailperry.com/handouts/smartstart. Okay? And I'll also post a few more articles that I think you might be interested in. Now, my friends, in just a minute, I'm going to ask you to get up out of your chairs and find a partner. And then I want you to share why you care about the partnership with your partner, and then let your partner share why they care, right? And then I'm going to yell really loud in the mic, and I'm going to say, change partners. Have to do really loud because y'all are very enthusiastic, right? And then you go find somebody else, and you share this, you have the same conversation. We're going to do it about 4 times. So you get 4 opportunities. Very informal, low pressure. You only have 30 seconds each. So what happens if you take up all the time? 60 seconds. What happens? You think your partner's going to like you? I didn't think so. So you're going to have to be to the point, right? So now, as you go around the room, I want you to be aware of 5 things. I want you to track what you're saying, and you might want to remember the final version. It could come in handy someday, but that's up to you. And then I want you to pay attention to how you're impacted by other people, right? I want you to observe whether this is a miserable experience or if it's enjoyable. Now, is it easy or is it hard? And I want you to observe the energy in the room. It's a bunch of things. So have some self-awareness when you're going around doing this, and just observe. And you really want to try to remember your last version, right? And you can't carry your notes with you. You can't read when you're doing this. This is one-on-one engagement, right? So are y'all game to try this with me? Are you game? Yeah. Remember to introduce yourself, too, because a lot of you don't know each other. Okay, everybody up, find a partner, and introduce yourself. Sit back down, please. We got some urgency going on in these conversations, I can tell. All right. So I want you to imagine what it might be like if your board has this conversation with each other. Now, here's the first question you ask. It's not up here on the PowerPoint. The first question is, what was your experience like? So, okay, my friends, y'all, let me hear from people. What was your experience like? Fun? Tell me more. Informative. Was it exhausting? Somebody else. What was it like? Sorry? What was it like?
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Tell me more about wonderful.
The person is saying essentially the same message, but they each have their own little individual take.
Isn't that cool?
And the most powerful one was the one where it was personal to them.
Oh, the most powerful one was where it was personal to them, their own experience. Did anybody else experience that? That when people started talking about their personal experience, that they really connected with the listener? Interesting. We could learn a few things about that, couldn't we? Somehow maybe those 3 main marketing messages are not the most important thing to remember anyway. I mean, they're important, don't get me wrong. I'm all about knowing what your messages are. Somebody else, over at this table, what was your experience like?
It was stimulating.
Stimulating.
And I got to compare most of the people I talked with were from large counties, not from a tiny county.
Yeah. Did you get inspired with some new things to say, maybe?
Yes.
Maybe anybody get inspired with some new things to say? Oh, good. Write them down now. You're going to forget them. Yeah.
I was just going to say that one-on-one, face-to-face encounters are powerful.
Aren't they? Especially dealing with your mission and your subject matter. Huh. Now, you are speaking to the choir here. Yeah.
Hearing people's passion.
Hearing people's passion. I call this exercise, there are tons of objectives for this exercise, but my number one objective, it gets people in touch with their passion. That's what it does. Yeah, the gentleman in the black.
I was just going to comment on what somebody else said. I found a little trepidation going into this.
Sure.
Because I am much more comfortable speaking to a very large group
Uh-huh.
and one-on-one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm comfortable with one-on-one, but more,
Large group is okay, yeah. And so did you become more comfortable?
oh, yeah.
And did you have a
I
comment?
was just going to say, in one of the go-rounds, someone said, the energy of this room is so fantastic. And it just, when you say that, then it's hard for it not to be,
You're right. I'm very big on making declarations, whether you want them or not, it's going to happen, right? I'm in the middle of losing 10 pounds, dadgummit. And every day I say to myself, yes. But now, let's talk a little bit about, well, first of all, was this easy or difficult? It was easy, wasn't it? It was easy. You warmed up to it? Okay, yeah, warmed up to it. Sometimes shy people have a hard time with this because everybody has a different style of communicating, and it's okay. It's okay. We all are different people. And by the way, isn't it wonderful that we're so different? Because if you put us all together, we might make one complete skill set, right? It's fine. It's fine. Okay, was this fun or miserable? I saw a lot of happy faces. By the way, if I took your picture, if it's okay with you, I'm going to post this album on my Fired Up Fundraising Facebook page, and you can go in and tag yourself if you if you think the picture's complimentary enough. And I'll also tag, Diane and I were doing our social media thing ahead of time. We tweeted and we Facebooked, and if you want to be nice to me, you could say something on my Fired Up Fundraising Facebook page about this session that I've just posted about. We're working on our social media, we got to have that skill set. Now, my earlier question, I want you to imagine what it would be like if your board members did this exercise. And I'm willing to bet that you might have challenges with dead energy in board meetings. It happens, and something like this can shift everything. How's the energy like now? Is it different? Y'all are more engaged. Y'all are more up. I love getting people out of their seats. It shifts everything. And so here, if you wanted to take some extra time at your board meeting, have this exercise and then talk about what did y'all hear that really resonated. We don't have time to go into this right now, but if you could work with your partnership, your board, or even in a regional group and talk about what you heard from people, you would be pulling out a killer case for fundraising support. Remember what you heard and said, because this stuff is so powerful, the why. And in fundraising, we talk, there's the difference between the what you do and the why it's important. Has anybody read this book called Start With Why? I have 2 copies. I haven't read either one, but I believe in the idea, right? Maybe if I keep buying copies, I'll understand what he's saying. But it makes perfect sense. The why something is important is so much more interesting than the what. Did anybody start out talking about what you do? And did you evolve? Yeah, and so guess what, board members? Guess what? Y'all do this better than the staff. Y'all can nail the why better than the staff. Why? Because if y'all are way up here. The staff has TMI, too much information. They're down in the trees, and they start talking about trees. It's natural. So board members, this is to encourage you that you do not have to have all the facts in order to be persuasive. How many politicians do we hear all the time? They don't have all the facts, but they're extremely persuasive. I'm a student of human behavior because I want to change the world and make it better, and so I am non-judgmental. I try to be non-judgmental, and there's no good or bad or right or wrong, as much as I can try to just be, let's learn from other people, and it's human nature, and let's see how we can help human nature be better. So I would suggest that try this exercise with your board members. This is the first step toward equipping them with something to say that will help spread buzz and build your visibility. Right? The first step. And you want to train your board members to be sneezers. Because anybody study viral marketing, ideas are contagious, and you want to create an epidemic in your community of good news about Smart Start's powerful work and the results you're making happen, see, what I'm trying to do, I want to train your board members to all be sneezers. And if they're watching this video, I hope they're going to practice this exercise. And guess what? Board members, you get to sneeze on everybody you know. Cheerfully and enthusiastically, right? That's your, if you ask me, that's one of your number one jobs as a board member, is to sneeze wherever you go, right? Donna really likes that one. And when I work with medical foundations, they have a really hard time with this metaphor. They have a really hard time. Now, there are 4 steps to the elevator speech. The first step is what you say. The second step is how you say it. How were y'all being? Let's hear a few words that describe how y'all were being when you were saying it. Passionate. Energized. Engaged. Sincere. Happy. Focused. Yeah, authentic. Right? These are pretty powerful ways of being. You know, you're not worried about hitting somebody up for money. You are purely standing in the white light of talking about why this is so important in your community. And so we should be able to do this. We should be training our board members on how to do this. This methodology is so important, but we need to make them comfortable with it, right? And so look, this is what I hear. I ask this question all over the country and the world when I do these trainings. You know, people are enthusiastic. And you know, well, good old Ralph Waldo, he said, nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. Anybody know that quote? Yeah, a lot of, like, Warren Buffett quotes it, Donald Trump quotes it. So, you know, this is a big deal. Enthusiasm can really motivate people to shift. So part 3 of the elevator speech, this is the fun part. You have sneezed. Something thoughtful about why you care. And you have done it. How are you being when you sneeze? Cheerful and enthusiastic, right? And personal and authentic. The next step is you have to know when to shut up. Because you want to create a conversation. And if you keep talking, will a conversation happen? No. So in fundraising, we talk about listening skills. And I remember, everybody has a different style. Some people are very comfortable talking. Does anybody have an academic background? Y'all are particularly susceptible to this inclination. It's okay, but listen, academics are trained to talk. It's okay, you know, it's not good or bad, right or wrong. So, but you just have to understand your tendencies. But the smart fundraiser will only ask a few questions and get the other person to do all the talking. Why? Why? I'm learning.
It makes it feel like their idea.
It makes it feel like it's their idea.
You're expressing your interest in them.
I'm expressing my interest in them. Kissing the ring.
What they say is important.
What they say is important. The more they talk, the more they like me. Hands down. I told you I'm a little bit subversive, right? But this is Southern. This is good manners. I have a whole presentation I call Mastering the Soft Skills of Major Gift Fundraising. And we start out with listening skills. And I tell you, there's a story of a woman who was at a party, and she was having a conversation with this gentleman, and when she walked away, the guy said to the other person, he said, "She's the most amazing conversationalist." And what do you think she had done? Ask smart questions and listen, got the other person talking. So, you know, if we're trying to engage community leaders in what we do, the work we do to change children's and families' lives and futures, we sneeze cheerfully, enthusiastically, and we say, what are your impressions of the situation with young children? What are your impressions? I love this word. I have raised a lot of money with the what are your impressions. Let me tell you a couple of stories. I was working with the Raleigh Rescue Mission, and there was a gentleman who had founded the rescue mission, Mr. Mangum, who went on to create this huge, successful company, and he was on his deathbed. He was much loved, okay? He was on his deathbed, and the Raleigh Rescue Mission was building, I was helping them do a capital campaign for a new wing for homeless women and children. Okay, we put together a tour. Anybody know what my motto for tours is? Loretta, you might remember this. You got to make them cry 3 times in an hour. If you can't make them cry 3 times in an hour, start over with your tour, right? So we had people coming to our rescue mission. The executive director had 11 minutes, and then he was done, right, being the visionary leader. And then we went to the daycare center. Y'all, we went to the daycare center. And there are these little children. We timed the tour because we knew when they said grace over their lunch at 11:30 on Wednesday mornings. So I'm sitting here looking at these little children who are homeless, saying grace over. I cry every time I think about it. I got to the point I could not walk in that room. It was so touching to me. And then we went over and we met the pharmacist. We talked about the health issues. And when we went over and we talked to the lady who taught computer skills, we talked about job training. And then we went into the rescue mission and we sat down. We went through the line with the people living there, got served with them, by them, sat next to them at the table. So we had the mayor, the heads of all the churches. We brought everybody in Raleigh through this tour 3 times in an hour, at least crying 3 times in an hour. And Mr. Mangum had 4 sons. And the rescue mission had lost connection with the family over the years. And I said, he should prospect, the family should prospect, he needs to name this building. And so how are we going to reconnect with the rescue mission? Because the head of the rescue mission is a good old Southern Baptist preacher, and he's not comfortable just calling up the family to say, hey, right? So we invite the sons over and over and over and over for the tour. We did the tour every other Wednesday morning for like 6 months. We were on the tour. We had a goal. And finally, one of the sons came. Okay, one of the sons came. He goes through. He sees the children. He eats lunch. And so at the end of the tour, praise the Lord. It was at my lucky moment. I was walking out of the rescue mission in a hot August day on the brick steps with the sun shining, and guess who was walking out next to me? The son. So what do you think I said? I said, what are your impressions? What were your impressions? I want you to notice I said 5 sentences. I want you to see how far I got with this gentleman. 5 sentences. What were your impressions? He said, oh my gosh, I can't believe the rescue mission. You know, I grew up here and my daddy and the blah, 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 and he's really enthusiastic. So I'm thinking green light or red light? Green light. And I said, oh, your daddy meant so much to this organization. I wish I had known him. I know he's a wonderful man. And he goes on about his daddy, right? And then, green light, red light, what do you think? Green? Because I'm not pushy. But then I said, oh, you know, we had always dreamed of naming this new wing after your daddy. Was that pushy? Hypothetical. You can do a lot with people when you're... You can go far with smile and being hypothetical. You know, gosh, we would love to find a major corporate sponsor for our barn bash. You know, and there's only one big company in town. You know, I mean, you speak in terms of vision and hopes because you're not being confrontational with people. Does that make sense? He wasn't feeling pushed. And so I said, oh, we had always dreamed of naming this wing after your father. He said, oh my gosh, what a wonderful idea. Oh my gosh. I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh. And so I've got green light, red light, and I go, do I stop? I decided to move forward gently, right? And so I said to him, I said, you know, the naming opportunity for that new wing is $500,000. Is that something your family might like to discuss? So I was asking for permission. Very key part of bigger ticket fundraising, even smaller ticket fundraising, you ask for permission. Are they interested in having this discussion with you? So you're not being pushy, you're not being confrontational or anything. And he said, you know, we would really love to talk to y'all about it. We're having a foundation meeting in 2 weeks and bring me a proposal. And so, by the way, I was trained in sales by Xerox way back. And so I pulled out my sales training and I said, well, listen, can I bring you a draft proposal and get you to look at it before the deadline? Why do you think I did that? He'll read it. He'll read it. And also, he'll give me feedback and I can tweak it. If you're ever doing a proposal, a big proposal, never let the words do the selling for you. You're being naive if you think your proposal is going to raise that money for you. It's not about the words, it's about the human contact. I'm a shortcut fundraiser. Gail shortcut with proposals. Cut the deal orally in person if you possibly can, and then the proposal merely follows up. Right? Or at least get permission. At least get permission that they are interested and they think it might be a fit, and then you work with them while you're creating the proposal so that you can get it exactly right. I mean, they're a foundation officer, and their job is to work with applicants. But instead, we treat them like they're high up on the hill, like, oh, we can't talk to them. They're so important or so powerful. Okay, that's my little proposal lesson. But the rescue mission story had a bad ending. Mr. Mangum promptly passed away. The widow, Mrs. Mangum, was really interested in making the gift, but she wanted to talk to the head of the rescue mission. And this wonderful, dear, good old Southern Baptist preacher could not bring himself, regardless of my begging and pleading, to go see the widow lady because he felt like he was just doing deathbed snooping or something like that. He had these blocks about it. And I couldn't do it. I sat on his sofa in his office and I almost cried. I pleaded. He would not do it. And so guess what happened? The $500,000 gift went to the healing place in Raleigh, not to the rescue mission. So there are many lessons in this story. One of the lessons is it takes a team to close a gift. You know, you can have the smartest consultant or the best solicitor or the best tour, but it takes a team of people. And the bigger the gift, the team has got to be coordinated on the same page, right? Right? And also a really big gift is a series of steps. It's not just one moment of an ask. It's more like a conversation, right? Right? So what are your impressions of my story? What are your impressions of my story? Powerful? Doable? I mean, gosh, you need to be having tours that can bring people to tears. Let me tell you something. Back in Surrey County, I personally saw these daycare centers. This was a long time ago, maybe 20 years ago. Daycare centers were converted old motels with nothing but cribs lined up, and they stank. And that was a daycare center. You know, I heard stories about country children living in trailers on back roads who had only potatoes to play with. Only potatoes. And this is a one-line story. These children had only potatoes to play with. Does anybody have a really good one-line story that paints us a picture like that? The story is really powerful. Really powerful. You can go into that motel. You can smell that motel right now, can't you? That urine smell? Yeah. And so Governor Hunt came out to Mount Airy when we were trying to get the Smart Start thing, because he uses his signature program. And boy, I could set up a tour for Governor Hunt. Boy, I could do that. And we paraded all the community leaders around to look at these places. So you can do these tours, my friends, because not that much has changed in our counties in 20 years, has it? You know? It has? Yay! Yay! Well, you can still find something people can cry about. I know you can. I'm challenging you, okay? All right, we got rid of all those motel daycares, right? We got rid of them? All right, now, let me talk about the kiss of death for having the elevator speech. The kiss of death for a fundraiser or a community activist or anybody selling anything or trying to convey an idea is being boring. And what's the number one way to be boring? Talking too much. Talking too much. Who's ever been stuck in a conversation with somebody and you think, let me get away from this person? All right, who's ever been, well, how many times a day or a week or a month are we stuck? And if you're trying to build support for Smart Start, you don't want to be the person that when the other guy sees he's trying to get away from you because you're talking all the time, right? So listening skills make or break your initial relationship with somebody. And I have a couple of boyfriend stories. And I had this wonderful boyfriend. I will not mention his name because we're in North Carolina. You might know him. But he was a dear, wonderful, wonderful man. But he had one fault. He taught morning, noon, and night. This man taught too much. Like I had to make an appointment. It's my turn. Can I say something? He just taught. And, you know, and see, I was trying to get my daughters who are in their 20s to like my boyfriend. And my oldest daughter said, Mom, she said, he talks too much. He doesn't have any social awareness. I thought, social awareness, this is an interesting concept. And so I'm trying to coach him a little bit, you know, coach, not criticize, coach. Because we're not married yet. You criticize when you're married, but you coach before you're married. But because I wasn't, and so he was listening stuff. We were talking a lot about it, and he said, "Oh, Gail," the light came on his head. He said, "Now I know. Now I finally understand why when I'm at a party late, the only people standing around listening to me are the old folks who can't hear." Bless his heart. Bless his heart. But listen, this is the learning part of the story, and this is what I want you to remember. He was a real estate developer, and he, during the recession, it was really scary for people who were exposed on real estate projects. He was talking to another gentleman in the town where he lived who was a very wealthy doctor about investing in a project. Huge conversation. If the doctor made the investment, it would probably save this whole thing, right? So my boyfriend was very urgently practicing his listening skills to be careful about how much he was talking. He was paying attention. And then he said, "Gail, I was talking," it was a quasi-social situation. A lot of conversations happen in quasi-social situations, don't they? They do. And he said, "I saw Jay," I'm not going to use his name, the doctor's eyes start to glaze over. And I knew it was time to shut up. And he was so proud of himself. And so if you're making a call for Smart Start on somebody, and the other person gets carried away with conversation and you haven't yet made an agreement that you can knock them under the table, watch the other person's eyes, right? And let me tell you one more thing about watching people, and I'm a salesperson through and through. We're going to change the world. We've got to get people on our bandwagon, right? I was working for the MS Society in Greensboro, the Central North Carolina, and we had a prospect for $1 million gift. Huge gift. And this was somebody who gave, one of the 4 guys who gave $10 million to High Point University. We clearly had the capacity. His wife had MS. So, a perfect couple. But we couldn't, he would talk about it, but we couldn't get him to sign on the dotted line. Anybody ever run into a situation like that? And so I plopped myself next to him in a meeting. What am I going to do? Use my radar to try to figure out what's going on with this gentleman. Just listening, just ask a few questions, listen. Because I needed some data, right? The radar picks up data about where they are. And if you're doing all the talking, are you paying attention to your radar? No. Okay? So he mentioned that he had been to Palm Beach. And there's this fancy social club in High Point called the Quadrille. And my sister and brother-in-law are new members, and so they all went to Palm Beach with the Quadrille. It was like quite la-di-da. And so I asked him, I said, "Well, did you go on the trip with the Quadrille?" And I mentioned my brother and sister-in-law's name. And look, this guy, watching body language, he just cut his eye ever so slightly like that. And I knew that he was not impressed with my brother and sister-in-law, sister and brother-in-law, and also he did not go on that trip. Like, just this tiny little shift in him. I think, Gail Perry, you just hit a strike. You just struck out on that one, okay? So I figured I had maybe one more chance with this man, having totally bombed my first effort at bonding with him or conversation. And so I said to him, well, you've got a bunch of businesses. I said, tell me what you really do. Oh, he loved that. And frankly, I love talking to people about, or hearing people talk about their businesses. I love it. And so I wasn't being fake. I was interested. And he told me about his, and then I really hit the jackpot. This is home run. And I said to him, well, out of all the stuff that you do, what do you like doing the most? And he leaned back and he said, I like making deals. And he smiled, and he was happy. And from then on, I was the smartest consultant that had ever walked the earth. He said, is Gail going to be at the meeting? I really like her. So see, these are people skills. These are social awareness skills. Watch, and use your radar. Because then you can get people sitting next to you on your team, and they will be one with you going forward, right? So what are your impressions of my stories? Impressions of my stories? Honest? Honest.
Good lessons.
Good lessons? Thank you. I'm always seeking feedback. I'm watching your body language. I'm watching how many people. There are not too many people who are on their cell phones. Yes. Nobody's nodding off. I never thought when I was in a school class that the teacher could really see me, but the teacher sees everybody exactly, like with laser vision. I wish I had really understood that when I was young. Now, Anybody remember that? Yes, ma'am.
There's one thing I'm going to push back on. Today.
Okay, good.
And one of the things that we have to do is differentiate ourselves from other nonprofits, but also what in the current political climate people.
The number one motivational factor for a major donor making a gift, moved at how the gift will make a difference. So you've got emotion and data in that one sentence. So thank you for that. And right now I'm still dealing with the fuzzy stuff. And we'll drill down into some data, but couple it together. Couple it together. Anybody remember this Maya Angelou quote? People, when I'm gone today, you're going to forget what I said, except my stories. You're going to forget what I did, but you're going to remember how I made you feel. Were you bored? Were you entertained? Were you happy? You're going to remember that first, aren't you? Oh my gosh, that concert was awful or great, you know. Now, you get to have a discussion here. The fourth part to the elevator speech is a request for follow-up. A request for follow-up. So look, you're sneezing on your backdoor neighbor who's the CFO of the biggest company in town, right? You sneeze cheerfully and enthusiastically. You say, well, what are your impressions of the situation? He starts talking about all the needs for daycare of his workers. You have a live one, a real live one. What do you do next? Right? And so what I want you to do in your small group discussions right now at your tables, I want you to see if you can come up with a list of 5 things that you could possibly do with the prospect that you sneezed on who was interested. How would you follow up? And here's some cheat sheets. You know, you can consider these options. But I want you to think through. This is a thinking through exercise, okay? So just take a minute, take about 5 minutes, and then we're going to take a break and see if you can come up with 5 next steps after your sneezing, okay?